Hello and welcome to Talk Wargaming. Here in front of me I have DreadBall Xtreme, which is what I'll be unboxing in this video. Now you may already be aware of DreadBall, but what this is a different way to play the game. It's a lot more brutal, it involves special rules and a new kind of layout to the board as well. So first of all, let's have a look on the back of the box here. So here we can see the entirety of the contents of the box there. We've got the gaming mat and all the miniatures there, which includes 10 convict players, 10 Asterian players, which we have here, 9 free agents, 2 sponsors, and bases. We have the rubber gaming mat, 4 strike posts, obstacle crates, dread balls, a rule book, a special move card deck, sabotage card deck, counters, and 14 coloured dice. So basically, it's everything that you need to get started with DreadBall Xtreme. So now that was the box, let's actually have a look inside and see what we get in there. So removing the lid for the box. The first thing we have is the DreadBall Xtreme rulebook. As before, it's got all the rules in there. You've got some pictures for some of the miniatures that are found in this box set. We also have these nice diagrams as well, which explain some of the rules in a bit more clearer fashion. And obviously, we've got all the new rules for the DreadBall Xtreme in there, and some of the roster sheets as well. So that was the rulebook. We have the roster pad as well, which gives you plenty of leaves there that you can write down your teams and the special rules and everything you need to kind of just reference when you're playing the game. Here we have the gaming mat, which is a rubber backed one as opposed to the card one that's found in normal DreadBall, and you've got all the hexes on here. Now, one of the things you may notice first of all is that rather than it being kind of stretched out horizontally, it's actually more of a grid section, but you still have all these strike zones there, but they're just kind of laid out in a different fashion. So let's just put this to one side. So let's just put this away, and there we go. We've got the counters here, some of which have fallen out. So we've got a mixture of counters available, all sorts of different types, and we've got some currency counters as well for the sponsors, which do some of the wages, and there's various other counters there, so let's put that to one side. We've got the dice there, 2 different colours, home team, away team, and I believe the blue ones are the coaching dices as well. Here's the deck of cards that we mentioned earlier. We've got the special moves and also the obstacles. These are quite smaller than kind of the usual cards that we've seen in DreadBall, which are much more easy to kind of carry around, and you can still read all the information clearly on those as well anyway. We also have 2 bags of crates for the scenery, so I'll be opening these up and we can have a closer look at those in a minute. But got 2 bags of plastic, I believe, hard plastic, and we also have the teams as well. So this one contains the free agents and also some of the sponsors, and possibly a couple of the team members as well. This is the Asterian. They're all in one bag. And we also have the convicts as well. Okay, so I'll just put those to one side. And finally we have the coloured hex bases. Now these are coloured for the home and away teams, as you saw on the board as well. So some people don't like to use these, but these are quite useful for seeing exactly which team is which from a glance. So that was the contents of the box. Let's actually zoom in and get a close look at some of the miniatures that you get with this. So now that I've zoomed in, let's get a closer look at some of the miniatures. First of all, we have the cons, and this guy here is a con runner, which is equivalent to a striker in the game. It's very nicely detailed. You can see his kind of ragged jumpsuit there and his tank top as well. One of the things I would point out is that all of the cons sport these kind of explosive collars as well, which is very kind of Running Man. And these actually collars play a part in the game, as you can kind of blow them up during the gameplay. And one thing that I'll probably point out is that the fact that most of the miniatures actually come pre-assembled in this box set. There are a few that do require some assembly, but what's great is that you can actually break most of these out and get playing the game straight away. So let's take a look at the next miniature. So here we have the next prisoner, which is a con, which is equivalent to a jack. He's much more heavily armoured than is a striker counterpart, and is sporting some rather kind of Mad Max style spiky shoulder pads there as well. One thing that is good about these is kind of like a hard plastic, and there isn't really much in the way of mould lines, so it'd be quite easy to kind of get these prepped and ready for painting. I really like this kind of aesthetic of the prisoners. It's very kind of, you can see that they're just kind of trying to scavenge what equipment they can, and it's not necessarily the best equipment in the world. So let's take a look at the final miniature for the prisoners. Here we have a thug, which is the equivalent of a god, and as you can see probably by his large stature, this guy's pretty tough. Now, as I mentioned earlier, some of the miniatures do actually require assembly, and this is one of the guys. You can see there he has a removable arm and a removable head as well. So there his arms fell off, and there is actually a couple of variations of arms, one of which comes with a claw, which you can kind of mix and match around the two. So this guy is obviously much bigger if I compare him to the runner there. So very easily distinguishable as a god there. So let's move on to, actually let's have a look at some of the wounded miniatures that also come in this box set. So here we have one of the wounded convicts, and he's there kind of like laying on the floor, clutching his explosive collar. Now what's nice about these is these can actually replace the miniatures which are normally downed, which during a normal DreadBall game, so you can kind of get a more clearer indication that someone is actually lying on the floor rather than just putting the model on their side. And there's also one for the other team as well, but I thought I'd just point this guy out to you here. So let's move on to the next team. The second team that you get in the DreadBall Xtreme box is the Asterians, and here we have one of the Asterian strikers. So very much kind of alien in their design. They're all sport this kind of mohawk, and obviously when you paint them, you'll paint them blue. They're all skimpily clad, and they're all female as well. So features kind of like the same kind of quality detailing as the convicts did there. So you can see like in the stomach detailing in the armor as well. So let's move on to the second miniature for the Asterians, which is the Jack there. So a little bit more heavily armored, but still quite skimpy looking. Let me just compare them to the convicts as well, so you can get kind of an idea of the scale. So the kind of slightly taller and slightly thinner in their posture, which kind of, but roughly on equal standing with the two. And as with the convicts, there is also a wounded miniature. Let me just find it. And there we go. There, she's kind of just crouching down, obviously been winded, clutching her stomach there. So both of these teams have these miniatures, and they just kind of really add a bit more of something a little bit more to the game, rather than just having miniatures just lay down on the floor or everywhere. So now that they're the two teams, let's look at some of the free agents we get in this box. Now the free agents feature a whole weird and wonderful array of alien creatures. I'll just look at a few of them rather than looking at all of them. First of all, we have this kind of arachnid Cthulhu hybrid, which is I think it's called a bloodsucker. It's quite, as mentioned, it's quite a big miniature, and for it to be in one solid piece is quite impressive as well. Very nice kind of aesthetic there, kind of like very kind of insecty, and this kind of strange bulbous sac on the head, which is obviously where the blood gets stored, is also quite intimidating. So let's take a look at one of the other free agents. So let's take a look at two of the other free agents before we move on to the sponsors. And here are the Jatari training droids, and this one is classed as a Jack, and this one is classed as a striker. You can just about make out on the camera all kind of little nicks and kind of grazes that are in their armour there, and obviously all those kind of battle damages come from many hours of training potential DreadBall players. Let's have a look at the sponsors next. So in the DreadBall Xtreme starter, you get two of them. You get the Blaine, which is kind of ever present amongst the Mantic world, and is even kind of crossing over into Kings of War as well. And the Warden, obviously he's the guy who is in charge of the convicts. Now these don't actually play an active role on the board itself, really. They kind of stand on the sidelines, and these represent kind of your influence on the game. The Warden has some abilities which allow him to kind of blow up the convicts' explosive collars to cause damage to other players, and Blaine has a few special abilities himself. So nicely detailed as always. Blaine's wearing this kind of like ragged cloak, whereas the Warden's wearing his kind of penal officer uniform there as well. So that's it for the miniatures. Next up, let's look at some of the scenery. One of the new features of DreadBall Xtreme is actually scenery playing a part on the board. Now, we have many different types of scenery in this box set, so as I look at a few of them, we've got this tower here, and we've got some, what looks like a kind of an ammo crate, and we also have these little mini crates as well. Now what's interesting about these is these actually come with these removable lids, and inside you can see a kind of like a counter of some sort. Now basically what this represents is In the game you can actually booby trap these crates so that when people come across them, you can actually trigger the booby trap to see what happens, and they can explode or they can be duds or anything like that. So it really adds like an extra gameplay element to the game. Now all of these crates come in two separate parts which just kind of clip together. You can add a little bit of glue. They're also hard plastic as well, which makes they're much easier to work with. So as you can see there, it's quite easy to just clip them together. Probably quite firm as well. So yeah, I mean these might not even need any glue, but it's always just better just in case. So quite nicely detailed, very futuristic, kind of similar in style to what we've seen in the Dead Zone and Battle Zones, and you can probably mix and match these across the whole kind of Mantic sci-fi range as well. So that was the DreadBall Xtreme unboxing, and inside we saw lots of fantastic looking miniatures. We've got some new teams that can be used in DreadBall Xtreme as well as the conventional DreadBall, so we've got the Asterians and also the Cons as well. All of which are great looking miniatures. They're very new to the game. They bring this whole kind of aspect of bringing scenery in is also fantastic. We'll look more into the rules in future videos, but for the contents of this box, it's excellent. You've got everything you need to get playing. You've got the fold-out game mat, which is like the deluxe mats that you get for Mars Attacks, and also the one that comes with Dead Zone. So you've got that rubber back, which means you can fold it up and it won't get creased, and much more harder wearing. You've also got all the dice and the rules and the cards and everything you need. You can pretty much open this box up, and because the miniatures are single piece, a lot of them don't require assembly. You can pretty much get playing the game straight away without having to mess around with glue and clippers and anything like that. I'm very much looking forward to getting some paint on these miniatures, so expect some painting tutorials for the Asterians and the Convicts in the near future as well. Hopefully I'll also be running a few how to play DreadBall Xtreme kind of videos once I've been able to get a few games in and get my head around the way the mechanics work as well. So be sure to subscribe just to be kept up to date with all those kind of DreadBall related videos, as well as all sorts of other wargaming and Mantic related videos that we've got as well. Be also sure to check us out at talkwargaming.com, where we have whole loads of content as well, articles, all sorts of things like that. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.